Hello, everyone. My name is Trey Daniels. I am a teaching artist as well as a dance administrator, as well as a DJ, as well as a producer, as well as an event planner. I am happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And seven, eight, and we're here. I have a joke for both of you. Before that, Gery, you are my co-host.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Of
This
course.
is Talking with Teaching Artists with me, Mr. Jordan, and
Gery JOYFUL Moore.
Mr. Gery. This is the podcast where Gery and I talk to our fellow teaching artists. We learn from them, we connect with them, and we just shoot the stuff. All right, ready for my joke?
Yeah, what's your joke today?
Oh my gosh. I just got nervous.
Pressure.
I just got nervous. Okay.
You got it.
We're already laughing. So
Why do ducks have tail feathers?
I don't know, Jordan. Why do ducks have tail feathers?
Actually know this
You
one.
know this
I
one?
don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil
Why do
it.
ducks have tail
I
feathers?
don't want to spoil it because I know it.
Okay.
Should I say it? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To hide their butt quacks.
To cover their butt cracks.
Oh, you fucking loser.
You know what's funny? What's funny? I actually used to have a really bad speech impediment where I couldn't say
Did you really?
Yeah, I couldn't say anything with R.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Oh,
because
so you
you're
have
very
you would do the
articulate.
double, the W's?
Yeah, the W's instead of the R.
Oh.
Yeah, it used to be really bad.
How did you overcome that?
Speech therapy.
Oh shit.
Oh, you
okay.
did, huh?
Yeah. So this lady's lovely, wonderful woman. She would I'd be speaking and she'd go make an R sound. I'd be like R. So what she did was she took a popsicle stick and she'd go R. She's gonna say R. She'd go R. So she'll do it. So she would do it and show me what she's doing audibly. But as I'm doing it, she would take the popsicle stick, and she would take my tongue, and she would move it from the bottom of my mouth to the roof of my mouth and raise it for me.
Oh.
That way, I knew our.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
so-
that's what that mouth do.
Yeah, crazy.
So before we get into our personal roses and thorns, just a housekeeping for all the viewers. We couldn't get this echo sound off of there, so please bear with us. Can I share a rose and thorn?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my thorn is today on the way to one of the places that I teach at. It was just a orientation throughout this whole week. My scooter ran out of battery, and so I had to take the train. Thankfully, it was really close, so I was about like 20 minutes late. So that was frustrating. And my rose is today. I had a really good house dance class, beginner house dance class here at Rhythm Hood. Yeah, so it was not all beginners, and it was basically an intermediate class, which is really nice. So I was able to build a little bit more and challenge them a little bit more, and that was really nice. It was really nice to see, and then also see them like get physical breakthroughs.
That's always fun.
Yeah, like,
That's always fun.
and they go like, "Oh, that feels so much better."
Like seeing that light bulb go off, like go off in somebody else's brain.
Yeah.
To me, it's like so liberating. Like as an instructor, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
You know,
That
it's
like eureka moment.
yeah.
Right.
Because sometimes it's just like, yo, okay, so I see it happening. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we get some more. You know,
Yeah.
because it means just some more is coming at that point. You get me? Once you have that one, it's like, okay, just know there's like 4 more on the way. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Super ill to see.
What about you, Chair?
Ooh, everything. This is just a good time, and I just kind of sort of want to sit and enjoy this time and just enjoy it for what it is, I guess. One rose. Okay, well, cool. We start programming next week, I believe. Or is it next week?
Oh, so I made a mistake. So that's more of like teaching roses, so a personal one.
Oh.
I made a mistake and did a rose that was more teaching but not personal.
Oh.
Oh, I went to dinner with my parents last night. That's a rose. Yeah, and we had a good time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What did you guys have?
We went to Chuck's Barbecue something.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah, it was fried shrimp, Cajun, meatballs. It was cool.
Oh, bitch. Okay, so you got your life. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it was great.
I know you a foodie. Fuck it up.
That's amazing.
It was great.
It was
Had some gumbo,
Oh, gumbo goes hard.
seafood gumbo.
I feel like teaching is personal. Is that bad?
No,
Like for me, it is a personal thing. I like to. It's for me. It's like it's something I really enjoy. I hold it near and dear. I feel like for me, like teaching is it's kind of sort of I think integral to like me. You know, I feel like sharing is an amazing thing. It's a beautiful thing. You can't take all this knowledge with you. You know, so it's best to be able to share and I think give other people tools and gifts that they could use and utilize. You get me? You know, case in point, we have students that are, you know, all over the place, you know, doing their own thing. And of course, like we want to take some type of ownership, but at the same time too, like realizing that like your teachings and like your movement and like your ideas can travel. They can travel so far, you know, and you don't have to necessarily be attached to them. You know, that's still you. Going back to the program starting I think next week, I'm excited about that too. That's a program, it's an After School Matters program that we'll be working for. After School Matters is a like after school work and like kind of sort of development program for teenagers who are trying to learn different skills, traits. So case in point, you know, there's different programs these kids can sign up for, dance programs, culinary programs. I'm a product of that program, you know. And so not only do we start working with that program, Jordan and I, next week, I'm actually an alumni of that program, but we're in the same building, the same dance studio that we were in when I was younger.
Wow.
You know? So for me, it's like a full circle moment. Now I'm happy to be able to come back and be in that, but with my people. Me being an alumni gives me extra, you know, knowledge into like how we could do things, you know, especially looking at like what they used to be like and where they are now and seeing what we could do. I'm just super excited. So now like my ideas are just like, yo, like we're going to get in there and make some stuff work, you know.
You have that unique perspective of being like on both sides of the coin, like a student of this space with this organization and now being the teacher of it. And so that does give you a very unique opportunity to bring the things that Trey brings to the table. I think that's fantastic, and I'm excited to hear what it is that you do in the future with it.
Trey, do you have a personal thorn?
I think the only personal thorn I have right now is I'm trying to get super like situated where I'm living now, and that's the only thing. And that's been a little bit not difficult. I just want to get it done, you know. But I just want to make sure, like, I just want to come in and be able to sit and go. My space feels and looks amazing, you know. But now it's just like my space is still a little. She's a little bare still, you know. The walls echo if I clap too loud. If I clap too loud, it's gonna echo. But you know, it's still mine.
It's not your. It's not like it doesn't look like your space yet. Yeah, right? Like it's like technically yours, and it's for you to hold on to. But in terms of like the essence of Trey, that's what's.
We're getting there, right?
Yeah, we're working towards that. Yeah, no, I feel you.
Nice. What about you, Gery?
I'd probably say a personal thorn is I'm actually not where Trey is at, and like something that I've been lacking for a while is like having like a certain level of like stability in my life. So like things are constantly in flux and things are constantly shifting, things are constantly changing, which is fine because that's just the universe and that's just the way that like life goes. But at the same time, it is getting like I'm tired and it is exhausting. And so I'm just like, okay, girl, at the same time, I'm doing my best to like swim with the stream of the current, not swim against it because why bother? But at the same time, just like, girl, if we could have just a little bit more consistency and stability and if like, just a little bit more of a pattern, because like me and you talked about this before, to where like I'm not like you, to where you like things predictable and you're very much a creature of habit. You love routine. And to me, like that's very much, limp dick energy. So I'm just like, girl, I'm gonna get very bored very quickly if I can clock the tea like that out of nowhere. Like, I like to be kept on my toes, and I like adventure. You don't like adventure, that's just the difference in our beings. But with that being said, I'm just like, at the end of the day, bitch, no shade, everything in balance. So I do need a little bit more stability, and I'm not getting it at the moment, but it is what it is. And just hearing success stories like someone as close to me as Trey is, I'm just like, okay, bitch, like, he done did his thing and he got his, and they're like, okay, so like mine's is on its way. I just have to be patient and wait and so on and so forth.
I think a lot of it is peaks and valleys, though, because even prior to this, of course, there's like a bigger story, right? There's a deeper story, than like, what I was, what I was willing to share. Of course, there's like a deeper and bigger story, right? But it's always going to be peaks and valleys, and a lot of times, like, being a creative and then being a creative, being queer, being black, being like in existing in like a lot of these spaces is sometimes can be difficult, especially when you're like fighting all the time and constantly to like not just be sane but also be like respected, like see me, respect me, put these things and give me these opportunities that I'm capable of, like let me just have that seat for a little bit, and even if it's not for a long time, at least long enough to like at least get something or start to establish something, like, and that's something that's it's interesting, just navigating that. But like troubles don't last, they don't. Troubles do not last, and shit, like, it's just character development, and also too, like, you get to see, like, hey, like, how am I going to handle this, next time, if there ever is a next time, because there might not ever be a next time. Maybe,
right.
Who knows? Next time, something grows in your lap, you might mess around and be decent, like, not to worry about it,
I think last time, Gery, you and I were talking about adversity being hard.
Yeah.
Adversity is really hard. But then, at least what I was trying to do a couple years ago was building resilience. So that means how fast and how easily can you bounce back from adversity. And so how can you build whatever you need, your support system, your own coping mechanisms, your own like shelter things when something pushes against you. How easily can you bounce back, and how can you prevent it from coming again? So that's the like stability thing that I really love about routines and things like that. I think because before I'm not very resilient, especially emotionally. Like if something goes wrong, I'm like out for a while. So building the routines was a way for me to build resilience. So when something does happen, I can easily, it's just an off balance and I don't fall down. I just come back to center.
Yeah.
I
think it's a matter of like knowing that regardless of what happens, you always have a choice in how you respond to it, right? And so the more that you have these experiences that kind of like you were saying helps you build that resilience, it makes you more adaptable and it makes you more effective in how you're actually responding to these outside stimuli that, like, 9 times out of 10 you really don't have a say-so in it. Like it's never a good time for shit to hit the fan, right? It's just shit hits the fan.
Why now?
Yeah, it's just like shit hits the fan whenever shit's gonna hit the fan. And so when that happens, it's just like, okay, girl, so what are we going to do? How are we going to pull through this? How are we going to, take it a step or a day at a time? And it's obviously it looks differently depending on the person and depending on the situation. But at the end of the day, kind of like what you were saying, Trey, to where it's just like, just remembering that this is temporary and that it's fleeting, and like, no, the rest of your life isn't going to look like this.
No.
Yeah, no.
What about a rose? Gery, tell us a personal rose.
Personal rose is, bitch, you taking me to see Beetlejuice
Hey.
either tonight or tomorrow
Yay.
night. And I have very much been looking forward for that movie, and I'm ready to get into spooky season because I had a bad year and I had a bad summer, so I'm ready to just be like, okay, girl, let's wrap up this season and see what Miss Autumn has in store for us. So watching Beetlejuice, and seeing my bitch Jenna Ortega do her thing. I'm already waiting for the new season of Wednesday, so the least she can do is light up this big screen for me, bitch. So
That's ill. Yeah.
Nice.
so yeah, that's my personal roses. Movies with you, Pookie.
That's fun. Yeah. I haven't. I was reflecting. I haven't watched a movie in months.
OT.
Yeah. Or maybe last week was the first time in months. And I love movies.
You do?
Yeah. I've just been so busy.
Oh,
Just
no.
been so busy.
Booked and busy, baby.
Yeah.
Love movies.
Trey, will you tell us your teaching artist story?
And it's,
When did you first start teaching? How did
oh
you
my goodness.
come to where you are today with your you as a teaching artist?
As a teaching artist. Okay. Yeah, it goes back to African Matters, dude. It goes back to African Matters. I went to high school and not in Hyde Park. I was in Woodlawn, I believe. I believe Hyde Park is in Woodlawn, right?
Hyde Park's in Hyde Park.
No.
Oh, Hyde Park High School.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right.
I was confused.
Kenwood High School.
Okay.
Kenwood is in Hyde Park.
Okay.
But Hyde Park, the high school, is in, I think, Woodlawn.
Okay,
Something
I'm
like
not
that. Something like that, right? It's like 63rd Stony Island, 64th, 65th, in Stony or whatever.
Oh,
But
bitch, you were south.
yeah, I was east or south or I was over there.
Yeah, I was like, wait, is that southeast? Or?
I was over east.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second.
Over east.
Yeah, once I said it, I was like, wait a second. I think I
Yeah.
fucked that up.
You're fine. But I was over east, but essentially, like, yeah, I used to like around there looking for stuff to get into or whatever, and they had a table and they were playing music and we go, yeah, it's a dance program. You can get paid to learn how to dance, and I was just like, I was getting paid to learn how to dance, what, and like it was funny. This one lady like was us at the table, and I was walking past, and I was dressed super like funny, a little colorful. She was like, "You jerky boy." And I was just like, huh? It's like, jerky boy. I'm jerky boy. I guess I'm jerky boy. Hello,
What was the style of dance that was being presented?
Dude. Okay, so presented in the program.
Yeah.
So the program itself was a like hip hop, urban movement, jazz, funk situation. Very choreo based. It's like you're going to come in here, you're going to learn these dances, you're going to perform them, and yada yada. And that's what I was like, I'm down. Yeah. So signed up for the program. Was working with Tangi Harper. And
When did you first teach?
when did I first teach? I think the first time I taught, I said a piece. It was, I want to say, maybe a year after that first initial me joining. I got good to the point where the second year I did it, I did the downtown program. And she brought me downtown. She was like, apply for the downtown program. I was like, okay, cool, dope. I applied to the downtown program. And for me, like, for like the neurodivergent that I am, I'm just like, this is a lot. So I would need like a couple of breaks. I need to go just leave the room for a second, go for a walk for a little bit, come back and like, okay, back into it, But teaching, like they gave us the opportunity sometimes to teach here and there. So they were like, okay, if you want to teach, write your name here. We're going to set aside some time for you to teach. Okay, cool. So that's when I started teaching. And a lot of it was like taking everything that we had learned and then building upon those things, those skills, those tools, putting that in, I guess, like the choreography or whatever I wanted to teach, and then teaching it. So I think the first song I ever choreographed to was a Cool Kids song.
Oh, the Cool Kids.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
wow.
the Cool
Rocks.
Kids. Yeah, Mikey Rocks and Sir Mikey Rocks and what's the other guy's name?
I don't remember.
You should know. That's. Oh damn! I almost said Chuck, but I don't think it's Chuck. Chuck English, right?
Real Chuck? Yeah, it is
Yeah,
Chuck.
yeah.
Yeah, so After School Matters, and then what else? Where else did you teach?
Yeah, after I graduated, I taught for the American Rhythm Center.
Oh,
I taught for Millennium Dance Complex, Chicago. I taught for.
and those were adults, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Where else? Where else did I teach? I started a few. Where else?
The
was I?
puzzle box.
Yeah, I was at Puzzle. I think I was one of the some of the. I think we were some of the first original instructors at Puzzle Box too. Yeah. And
When was the first
yeah.
time with kids?
First time with kids, I would come back to the After School Matters programs, and I would,
Oh, yeah.
teach sometimes too. They'd bring me in to teach sometimes, so I'll teach a class here and there. And if it wasn't for that, it was for like Blue Rhythm. I'd come to them and I'd teach a class here and there, and yeah.
Trey, I have to ask, what are some of, because me and Jordan talked about this last time, what are, for you personally, what are some of the challenges that comes with teaching in like different age groups, like teaching kids versus teaching adults, and if you have a preference of one over the other?
Yeah, this could be one of your teaching thorns.
Oh, yeah. For me, I look at everybody like they're people of varying degrees, right? But they're all people, and a lot of times they run into the same issues.
Some people, some people don't see people as people for some reason.
What do you mean?
I don't know. For some reason, like especially when you're in a position of power. This is like a tangent. Like being late, or like making like when they're pushing people to like
Do you mean just like basically like not like
being
leveling
human
with people?
Yeah, like
I hear
just
what
being
you're saying.
human and accepting that they're fallible and they mess up and make mistakes. And yeah, this was just a tangent.
Oh,
sorry.
that was fine. Go ahead.
That was just
let
a
it, let it
tangent,
on
sorry.
out.
No, I feel you. You're funny. You're funny. People are people. Like, so I look at it like that. Like, they're very like sort of like when it comes to like the kids and the adults. Like, I don't think I treat them too much differently. If anything, what might change is probably like my word choices. But other than that, like I look at it like, okay, what does this person need? What does this person need? Is it, and then also too, like in execution, right? And emotionally, right? Also too, because sometimes when you give somebody like movement that they might not know or might not be familiar with or anything like that or whatever, there's a moment sometimes where people might freak out. It's like, oh, this is new. You just threw a fish into like a new aquarium, right? And it's just like, I'm in shock. Like, did you put the stuff in the water to kill the chlorine?
Right,
But it's one of those things. Just like sometimes, like I don't want to. What is it? I don't want these people that I'm teaching to be learning from a sense of, oh, I'm in shock, or oh, this is too much, right?
Yeah.
So I go into it with like, okay, let me assess the room, and things like that. So like, there's certain things I'll do like throughout my classes and in the beginning of the class to kind of sort of just assess the room and assess the people.
Yes.
And people might not be able to tell, but I
Use
have to
your,
assess.
use your warm up. Yes.
Yeah, to
exactly.
assess, and then afterwards, and I'll go forward. But I don't think it's that much different. The only difference I think would be, but sometimes you'd have to have more patience with the kids. Kids do require a little bit more patience, a little bit more understanding. You get me?
Yeah.
And then there's some adults also too who also need a little bit more understanding too.
And you've been mostly teaching dance.
Yeah.
As a teaching artist?
I've mostly been teaching dance.
Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't been anything else. It's always been dance.
Can I share a teaching thorn?
I would love to hear it. Absolutely.
Recently, there has been delays on some programs that I've been a part of because of low enrollment. And so that's been frustrating, because sometimes I think about, is it me? Is it because they don't want? Is it because I'm not good enough as a teacher? So this is all, yeah. So that happens, and it's like, oh, just all the different things of how it could be my fault. And then, of course, with a lot of the resilience tools, it's, okay, that's a thought. I don't have to ruminate on it. I don't have to say that that's truth. And then I say, no, it's out of my hands. I do the best that I can. And yeah. So that's been a thorn for me recently.
I think it's
season.
really good of just like you recognizing that, like, I think we all do it as teachers. I'm currently not teaching at one of the studios that I teach at for the same reason, like low enrollment and stuff. And there is that moment of like, kind of like you were saying, I'm just like, fuck, like is it something I did? Or maybe kids don't want to like dance as fishy as I'm making my choreography, so on and so forth, all types of things. But it's realizing that like, there are so many variables happening behind closed doors for these families to like, we can't even fathom, right? Like we like I have no idea what's happening in the home life of my students. Yeah, it could be anything.
I used to take it personally.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and then sometimes, a one student that used to be in your class in that hour is actually showing up for another person's class. I used to take that personally.
You'd get pressed.
Yeah, like.
You'd be jaded, sis.
Yeah,
damn.
Exactly. But of course, yeah. But then it's you open your perspective, and it's exactly what you said. You don't know exactly what's going on. The biggest hurdle was figuring out, because of my like really default people pleasing tendencies. It's the reality and fact of maybe me and this person just don't fit. It's not personal. It just you don't fit. What you want, you talked about like what they need, and what I can give, it just doesn't fit. That was one of the biggest hurdles for me as, I think, a person. in addition to being a teacher. What about you, Gery? Any thorns? Teaching thorns?
That's probably it. Like my teaching thorn is like not being able to teach as often because of the low enrollment at like one of the studios, and it's an interesting dynamic because like I love teaching in general, but if I'm gonna have a say-so of which one I'm gonna teach, I will always pick adults over kids, because for me, like at the end of the day, I'm never gonna get to be 100% Gery around children, right? I have to literally play censored version of music. I have to like censor my movement and choreography, things like no shit, at the end of the day, baby, I'm grown. So if I want to like touch myself and move in a sexually suggestive manner or like whatever the case may be, bitch, I get to do it because it's my body, and a lot of times I'm just emulating what the song is talking about anyway. Like Gery gets to celebrate his sexuality musically, period. But with that being said, at the same time, if like when I have 7 and 8 year olds, and so hell no, like I'm not about to catch a case. I'm not trying to hear shit from nobody's parents. Like, no, we are not going to be arching our back. We aren't going to be touching ourselves and doing all of that. Like, no, Gary's going to find other movement to do. But like I said, it does suck because I'm just like, well, yeah, I do want to dance like that and move that type of way. So I bring all that up just to say it's just like not being able to teach the kids, like I do miss it, but there also is, so that's the thorn, and also no shade, I'm not making as much money, right? Like, bitch.
I have a question.
She needs to get paid.
So then is teaching kids, is it not as fulfilling, or how would you describe the difference of what you get?
I would say with teaching kids, it's two very separate sense of like fulfillment, right? Okay. So like it is pretty cool knowing that like, oh, this child had no idea how to do a cartwheel, for example. And now that they trained with me, now you can do a cartwheel. Like, that's awesome. Or like, oh, like you like didn't know like about level changes in dancing. And now from training with me, you're just like, oh, like I don't have to stand on my 2 feet the whole time. There's this whole world that's literally exists down right there. Here. And I can like utilize that and expressing my things like that are cool, right? Yeah. But then like with teaching adults, for example, like there's been adults that like have recently become like trans and they don't know how to move their body in a feminine manner. And now they're turning to me. So I'm just like, oh bitch, you want to learn, you want to move your body very like, I got you, girl. Like, I got you, sis. Like, you know, things like that. And so that's, I'm like, it's two very different sense of like satisfaction. So like, you're seeing this person blossom and grow and like become more of who they are, but in two very, very different senses. But like I said, with adults, I don't have to censor who Gery is. I can play whatever the fuck I want. I can like move my body however I want. And it's more freeing. With like literally with kids, I have to censor myself. The censored version ain't never as fierce as the clean or as like the original version, right? Like it doesn't hit the same. So.
Yep. What about you, Trey? Well, before we take a break, any teaching thorns?
Ooh, teaching thorns. You know, so speaking of, I mean, no, the echo, you know, hey,
That
look, that falsetto. Yeah. Look, it's like, we're gonna get it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like, it's not us. Sometimes it's the people like in power sometimes who need a little bit of help, you know, they need a little bit of help sometimes. And sometimes, you know, because they don't do what they're supposed to do, guess what? Now you have to deal with the consequences of these people not knowing what to do or not doing what they should have done, or maybe, you know, they're dealing with life, you get me, but them dealing with life can also have a domino effect on you.
Yeah,
you
it's
get me,
impacting me and my work
exactly.
and my living.
You know,
and that frustrates you sometimes.
No, because 1,000%, because I can see where you're lacking, but it's not my place to go, you're lacking here.
Yeah,
you know, now I could,
you could,
but then no, but you know, nobody likes a know-it-all. You know, unfortunately.
Yeah,
you know,
and then it depends on the relationship that you started with. Is this like with Rhythmhood? We have an agreement that we're coming in. We're the teachers. We're doing the teaching part. All of the other stuff, you all do, because that's the partnership. That's the partnership, and that's the service exchange that you've agreed upon.
Yeah.
But when, I don't know, maybe those roles or those responsibilities aren't as clearly defined, or there's an imbalance.
Oh yeah.
Then the ship doesn't sail.
No, right. And I value transparency and being able to work with each other, because again, like, you know, miscommunications are regular. Like the miscommunication happens. You know what I mean? It's going to happen. It's regular. So for me, it's just like, okay, if it's regular and we're dealing with that, well, let's just get through this. Let's figure out moving forward how we can deal with this. So we set some like nice, you know, terms, you know, lay them down, set them. This is what I need from you. This is what you need from me. X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. Boom. Come back the next week and I'm just like, oh.
And there's no change.
Yeah.
That's frustrating. It didn't fit.
It didn't fit. Yeah. So it's one of those things, you know. I wish them the best of luck, but you know.
And we're back.
Hey.
All right. So we did our personal roses and thorns. We introduced Trey. We had our teaching thorns. Now let's do our teaching roses. Tell us some good news, some good things.
I'll start.
Yeah.
While my brain is percolating still, right? Oh, let's. Okay. So do. Okay, cool. With my classes, I've been seeing a lot of people I've been working with are now having they just have the confidence now to just like explore and like take chances and like play around with the things that they know. It's just really, really dope. I've been working with a lot of the same people right now for the past, I want to say like maybe 4 years.
These are the adults now?
Yeah, the adults. 4 years, you get me? So 4 years of like training, seeing them consistently, giving them notes, having them apply it. Now I'm seeing their minds work and put things together without there being like that whole like things are trying to compute. Now I'm seeing them actually just like execute it and boot. So it's booting into it and it's starting and it's going now, right? So it's really cool. And like now that load time is like a little bit like less. You get me? It's like they're operating with like a solid state drive instead of like a regular hard drive. It's like a solid state drive. It's moving so much faster. Them retaining information, them repeating information, and then also too like them taking that information and building their own shit. Like it's super cool to see. Yeah. I'm just like, yo, this is exactly where we're trying to go. Okay, now with that being said, how do we expound upon that, you know? Yeah. So that's another thing too. The students, and I want to say like their growth, seeing their growth, you know, seeing their growth and how well they are and where they are now with like this movement and their dance journey.
I just told the beginner class today that the goal for our Just Be program is so you can find your own voice using house dance. And it sounds like people are finding their own voice.
Oh, yeah.
There's less translation time between what my brain wants to do and what my body is doing. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was actually, to add on to what Jordan was saying, I think it's really, it seems, in addition to like finding their own voice, it's kind of like they're now having their own personal relationship with house dancing, right? So it's just like kind of like under the guidance of Trey, now I feel this way towards house music, or house music brings these emotions and movements out in me. And I think that is really cool for you as the instructor to actually, kind of like Jordan was saying, like actually see their own voices within the dance. Because I know for me, that's one of my biggest things when I teach dance, to where I'm just like, I mean, on an ego base, it would be cool to see like an army of people dancing like Gery. But at the end of the day, like that's not ultimately what I want. So yeah, I think that's really, really cool that you're able to see that and observe it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's necessary, though, just to see that growth happen. I'm just like, okay, it's making sense. So, like, it's not falling on deaf ears, which is great. It's not falling on, it doesn't feel like, you know, I'm wasting my time.
They listen when you talk.
It's not just like, it doesn't feel like they're wasting their time. It feels like, okay, everything's being applied, and now we're seeing that growth, you know? Case in point, here we go. Another thorn is, because we were talking about people, you know, it becoming more of like a second nature thing, right?
Yeah.
Another thorn I want to say is, because you went to the Chicago Tri battle, right? The house and breaking battle.
Yeah.
How many of those students that competed came from us?
Yeah. All the ones that were from Chicago.
Yeah.
They were ours.
How many of them had made it through or passed you know, prelims, like passed, you know? Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, this is a rose,
Yeah.
not a thorn.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So I look at it like that. I'm like,
Hell
well,
yeah.
well, shit. The proof is in the pudding, G.
Yeah.
Like,
Hell
at that
yeah.
point, you know. So undeniably, it's just like, well, that's another thing too.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, if all of our students made it through this really big jam that happened, where people are coming from out of town and they're
Yes.
getting smoked by people.
Internationally,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are coming from Canada.
No, and they're getting they're losing. And I'm like, sorry to those who did travel and came, you know. But at the same time, too, I am going to stroke my ego and say, you know, like, that was us. Because, like, there's a word where, and they use this word when they talk about the native people here, how native people would help tend to, like, the land. So case in point, you know, like, yes, they are taking and they're grabbing fruits and they're grabbing these things and they're grabbing and they're foraging and grabbing things that they need, and they might kill an animal here or there, you know, just to get the nutrition and things that they need. However, they see and they assess the land, right? Oh, things aren't really growing over here, but it has the potential to grow. Let me help and work on that, right? I forget what the word is, right? Where they're working with nature around them to help get a better result for everyone who lives and shares that space.
Wow.
That's essentially what we are doing. And now to sit back and see, you know, like, just all of that growth, all of that, like,
the fruits of your labor.
Exactly. It's amazing, you know, and that's directly us, you know. That's not you know,
it's
anything
linked to
else.
the
Yeah.
investment that you two have done,
Whoa.
and by all means, you should definitely be proud of it. It makes me think of like in ballroom, for example, and in voguing, like we, especially for people that do travel out of town, like we always say, like just getting your 10s, like that's a victory enough of itself.
Yeah.
Like if you just get your 10s and make it to the battleground, like you've done more than what a lot of the other girls can do, you know? So like you said, just for them to be have that confidence and like, because at that point it's like, bitch, you see it. As you like, you ain't gonna tell me that you don't see it. Like, bitch, you see it. And to know that these are people that learned from you, like, honey, work.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. And what do you think that like, what's that going to do now, you know, for the ecosystem, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they might mess around and start their own thing, which I'd, you know, be happy with too, you know?
Yeah.
They might push some stuff forward, you know? But for me,
and one of your students
it's a
is
win.
teaching alongside with. Wait, two of your students. I'm your student.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Teaching alongside with you. I forget. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot.
And Ibrahim too.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
but I was gonna say, but even with Ibrahim, I give a lot of Ibrahim, like, his, like, learning to Denzel. Denzel was with
okay.
him so much longer.
Yeah.
I mean, with Ibrahim, we just, like he was saying, like with me and William, we would just hang out, and he'd like, oh, okay, well, you guys are doing house? Yeah, we're doing house, you know, and then we'd play around and go back and forth and stuff like that. But when Ibrahim went to school, of course he's so far that we can't connect that same way, you know. Like
you know what I'm imagining now is some of our community of dancers that we've honed. They're gonna do the same thing with them and their roommates. Yeah. Because one of the things that I go piggybacking off of what you were saying, one of the things that I'm really enjoying seeing is the people that we've introduced through the Urbanite performance.
Oh yeah.
They're good friends with each other now.
Oh yeah.
And they're best friends, and they're hanging out, and they're making community with each other because they met through our thing. That's really heart fulfilling, heartwarming. It's really like
gratifying.
Yes. And yeah.
That's what I'm just like, I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm like, to see them kind of sort of go out into the world and like do stuff. I'm like, yo, well, go do some stuff so I can share it, you know? So I can be like, oh, look, hey, you know?
That's baby bird leaving the nest, right?
Yeah, you know?
Thank you for pointing that out. That's something that I didn't think about.
Yeah.
What about you, Gery? Any roses professionally, teaching-wise, specifically?
Yeah, I think kind of similar to like what Trey was saying. I think it's just this is not so much dance, but this is more particularly for like my like yoga class. But I think it is really cool seeing just how the things that I say during class, because I mean, you've taken my class before, so you know it's like I'm basically speaking like nonstop from the time the class starts. Like if I'm not like directing you what happens in a pose and I'm saying like, you know, inspirational things or meaningful messages and so on and so forth. And it's really cool to kind of see my students actually like implementing that in their day-to-day life. Yep. And just kind of certain, like I intentionally try to say things that can apply like on and off of the mat. And so it is kind of, I mean, essentially I'm helping shape how they navigate through life and how and in turn ultimately affecting like their own spiritual wellness. So kind of having like a moment of like what Trey was saying to her, it's like it's really cool to kind of step back and be like, oh shit, like the power of my words and how I'm utilizing it, especially like for someone who is a writer. I love words, like you know, so to see it having this like major impact for the greater good of a human being's wellness, like so I'm just like, fuck. I'm like, this feels great. Like it's more than just me making them like more flexible or more stronger or something. I'm just like, it's me helping you live a life of greater peace and wellness. And it's very humbling. It's very, very humbling.
Do you have an example?
I had a feeling you were gonna ask me that, actually, bitch. Like one of them was kind of just like the concept and idea of having curiosity with things that you're familiar with. So like, for example, like everyone knows downward dog in yoga, right? Like you don't even have to be a yogi to know what downward dog is. And I always tell people, I'm just like, I mean, I have no idea how many times I've like put my body in that position on my own personal yoga journey. And Lord knows I'm not going to stop, right? Like downward dog's always going to be something that I like do in my practice essentially. But it is, I'm just like, but with that being said, it's like downward dog never feels the same because I'm constantly shifting and changing, right? Like, and so it doesn't matter how many times I've done downward dog in the past. When I do it the first time in my practice, I still have to like check in physically with like how that feels in the same way as if it's the first time I've ever done it. And so just like, again, that's one of the principles that can apply on and off the mat, where like it doesn't matter how familiar I am with something, I still should have that same curiosity. I should still be inquisitive, and I should still just like have that same level of awareness of like, okay, like how does this relate to me at this particular moment and this particular like period of time?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of ways in my life where that can be applied. So it's maybe a particular weekly routine, this place that I go to every week can I discover something different when I go there, or this person that I live with, can I discover something new?
Yeah, we talked.
Yes, we talked about this. Yes. So Trey, we were talking about how we're opposites on how I like routine and Gery likes adventure and spontaneity. And I told Gery that I don't really have the desire to travel. You know how people are like, oh, I love to travel, find new places, and do all these things. And I told Gery what I prefer is finding new places in Chicago or discovering new things about you that I didn't know or about Gery that I didn't know, and just going deeper that way as opposed to going to Peru for a week and that's it.
You like to be invested with where you are and people you're connected with the most, right?
And I was also thinking about, because BO is going to want to travel, and I would like to travel too more often. And how do I do that responsibly? Just because I don't want to go to different places with that colonizer mindset of like, I'm entitled to be these places, especially if they're a tourist place. I'm just going to consume. And then, of course I give them my, some money and tourism. But, if I travel somewhere, it's a place that I'm going to want to go maybe every year at this time or something like that. Or I'm going to invest in the community. What?
No, I'm laughing because I think it's funny how even in something like travel, you're still literally trying to make it habitual. Like, I was just like, fuck, you really don't have a sense of adventure, do you? Like,
No, but
because the idea,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because the idea is every time I go there, I'm going to discover something new about that place. It's going to be really familiar. I'm going to know the people there.
Yeah, because you're going the same time at the same place.
I'm going to meet.
Investing.
But to be fair, you are a little adventurous sometimes, though. There's been some times you've been like, I want to go for a walk, and I'm just like, no.
Oh, like at night, or I'm just going to go for a drive.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Like, there's been times, like, where is it? Can I share? Yeah. There's been times where we're like in Pilsen, and Jordan's like, I want to walk around. And now, this is my thing. Yes, Pilsen is, like, up and coming right now,
She's getting gentrified. She
right,
is.
Yeah, right, up and coming, But there's something about, like, some neighborhoods still, some of what they used to be like still linger. Yeah. And if you go looking, you might find it.
She's an around the way girl,
yeah,
honey.
If you go looking, you might find it. So
I have the privilege of I've never gotten jumped before. Or I've never gotten robbed before.
Oh, it must be nice. Yeah, it must be nice.
So yeah, I mean, Lord Jesus. Yeah. Lord. I'm just saying.
I don't know if that's so much adventurous as it is just his lack of experience and slight naiveness.
Yeah. So for me, I'm like, definitely. Listen, I'm sorry. You wanna do what, Jordan? You wanna go for a walk at what time in what neighborhood right now? I don't think that's safe, my guy. So there's sometimes there are some times where you are adventurous.
I grew up in Naperville, so
it's different. It's very different. Naperville is very different from places I grew up.
Pilsen in the PM.
No. Like, it's just, there's some places or whatever where I'm just like, just if you just go to the area, you just kind of sort of just know I probably shouldn't be outside right now.
I'm adventurous with food.
Yeah,
this is true. You are a foodie.
I'm adventurous with food, and also to bring it back to my teaching artist practice, I think I encourage the same thing. One of the things I have taken from Jessica Deer from Dance Crash, when she would teach stuff, she would say, okay, go ahead and let that marinate for a little bit, and she would step back and she would give us some time to take whatever movement or combo and then just explore it with ourselves. And self-exploration time is that, giving that to the students has been something that I've taken, especially if I'm going to teach street dance and more of in a freestyle way. I say, okay, this, I'll do it, whatever. I'll drill it a little bit. Okay, now your turn. Let that marinate for a little bit in your body. And then, yeah, it's getting it into their muscle memory. It's getting them familiar to think about it themselves. And how do I want to move this, or how do I want to say this move in my way? That's been really nice to implement as well.
Nice.
Yeah. We are coming up at the end of time.
Yeah.
And I think I found what do you think about this? So going off of that rose and thorn idea, like, what's when you're in the garden and you pick the flower, is it the harvest? What do you know what I'm saying?
I actually don't know the like specific term for that.
So going with the rose and thorn and flower metaphor, so what are you taking away?
Mm-hmm.
What parts of the flower are you going to pick? This could be your 1 minute pick, like some of the things that you pick and bring home. Your harvest.
Mm-hmm.
What do you harvest?
What are we harvesting?
It's something like that.
Yeah.
Your takeaway.
Your
Yeah.
takeaway. So this is the 1 minute segment where we pass around and we talk about what we're harvesting, what we're taking away from this conversation that we're going to bring back to our own teaching artist practice.
Sweet.
Ready?
Yep.
Trey, your time starts
Okay.
now.
Sweet. Okay, so piggybacking off of two things right away. You were saying that Jessica Deer gives you time to let it marinate, which means get it in your body. You earlier were saying every time you do downward dog, every time you do it, you have to get in tune with yourself, right?
Yes, correct.
I feel like when you give people the time and the space to be able to explore like a thought, an idea, or like a movement, right? I feel like what you're doing also for them, especially after like teaching and drilling it for a long time, like you are letting them get connected.
Seconds.
You are letting them get connected to that movement. You are letting them get more connected to like how that might feel and how they are going to express that. And I feel like that's an important thing to do for anybody. I think working with people who are all types of thinkers, right? Or who have all types of brains, right? I feel like it's super necessary and integral to allow them to explore those things for themselves, for their brains, you get me, and for their bodies, you
5
know?
seconds.
Because they're going to need those things, you know? So, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, allowing people the space, giving them tools, and then allowing them the space to build with those tools that you're giving them, and letting them kind of sort of ease into, I guess, like what their blueprint is going to be for like the bigger structure they're creating.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's time.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, sorry. I was like,
That was great.
Oh, you're
Thanks.
No, well
That was
said,
great.
Trey.
I was like, I gotta get through it. I gotta get through it.
No,
Roll.
that was very insightful and beautiful. I'm glad that
Look.
you kept going.
I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I get it.
What's cool, because I got this 1 minute idea from, it's a podcast called Las Culturistas.
Yeah.
The one thing I like about this in this setting is that it forces you to like bottom line it.
Yeah.
Like when there's a time crunch, it's like, okay, what is the bottom line?
Yeah, you gotta have to get to the gist of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What about you, Gary?
Are
you ready to harvest?
I think I'm ready to harvest.
'Kay.
Yeah, I'm a city girl, but I'm
Hey.
gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the best I can
All
with
right.
harvesting.
This is Mr. Gary's 1 minute harvest. Your takeaway, and your time starts now.
All right. So I think one of the biggest takeaways for me personally is kind of like what we were saying earlier, how we all kind of struggled like with the like enrollment thing, and how there's basically a point to where all of us have a moment of self-blame and thinking that the issue lies from within, but then to kind of counteract that, and I think a very kind of gentle and good reminder for ourselves is kind of what both of you were discussing, to where like the fruits,
30
the
seconds.
proof is in the labor, right? Like you guys have students that are expressing themselves, and particularly in house dance, like thriving within that art form and within that medium. And so just kind of having those reminders of being like, okay, don't get too down on yourself.
10 seconds.
Don't have these very hurtful and harmful ideologies about ourselves, because at the end of the day, all of us are making an impact for the greater good, and so not to second guess ourselves.
Yes. And that's time.
You know,
That's great.
That 30 seconds is daunting. 30 seconds. Ah! Ah!
I get shook every time. Every time he
Yeah.
says that, I'm like, and you speak in such like a soothing, calming voice. But that's probably the only time like hearing you speak to me like gives me a sense of anxiety.
30 seconds.
Yeah, so I'm just like, oh fuck me.
Look at that. How about? I was just like, how about you? What is it? 15? Can we let you know at
Do
15?
a 15.
Yeah. Can we let you know at 15?
Give me a 30 and a 15.
A 30
please.
and a
15?
15 for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay, so this is Jordan J.RO Ordoñez's 1 minute harvest.
Yeah.
And he's going to be serving it right now.
What I am harvesting and taking away from this conversation is making sure that your teaching artist practice reflects your personal practice. What you talked about with being curious with your own self in Downward Dog, being self-compassionate with yourself when you are self-blaming, making sure that you are practicing what you
30
preach.
seconds.
You're practicing what you preach. In if you're telling them to be less critical of themselves, please make sure that you are practicing that. If you are telling them to
15
you know, if you're
seconds.
telling them to anything, you know, make sure that you are practicing
5
what you
seconds.
preach and you are living what you say.
Time. Hey.
Yeah.
Well said, Jordan. Well
Yes.
said.
Gery, thank you so much for this first episode of you being the co-host.
Yeah.
How did he do, Trey? How did Gery do, Mr. Gery do? Pow, pow, pow. He's
Why, thank
excited.
you.
Yeah. Yo.
And thank you, Trey, for doing this with us. Our first episode of us as co-hosts.
Yeah.
This was fun.
2, 3, 4,
5, 6,
7, 8.
Yeah.
Clap, 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 clap.